Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Chris Schaefer from Gilchrist, and I'll be the moderator for this morning's inspirations. And this morning we have a message from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. And this will be Lisa Walker from GBMC. And the title is, What Role Do You Play in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion? DEI starts with self-awareness. And there's a quote here from Mahatma Gandhi, which says, our ability to reach unity in diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization. When we commit to embracing diversity and creating spaces for equity, inclusion, and belonging, it is important to first develop a greater awareness about yourself and your role to make a positive impact. Self-awareness is a key component of the journey and will yield the greatest results if done with authenticity and curiosity. Lisa joined GBMC HealthCare as the Director of Learning, Organization Development, Diversity, and Inclusion in September of 2020. In her new role as Chief Diversity and Learning Officer, Lisa is responsible for leading the organization's diversity and learning strategy across our system. Lisa previously served as the Manager of Organizational Development and Performance at Luminis Health System. She received a Bachelor of Science degree from Towson University and a Master of Arts in Organization Management. Without further ado, we will introduce you to Lisa Walker.
Well, thank you so much, and happy Monday to everyone. I hope you got some much needed rest over the weekend, and I am very excited about having the opportunity to share a little inspiration this morning that hopefully will get us all on the right foot for the rest of the week. And I want to just talk a little bit about your role in our journey of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how self-awareness is just a great place to start, and is something that we all can do as we have a role in how we can make a positive impact inside and outside of our organization. So just a little bit about me. I'm really committed to helping to educate and empower our workforce so they feel like they can engage in our organization's commitment and journey to diversity, equity, inclusion. And I have a unique opportunity to also impact the opportunity to help people learn, grow, and develop. And so I really hope that my work is reflective in people to feel like they can live out their purpose every day when they come to work. It's a big job, but I don't take it lightly. I know it includes a lot of what can feel like uncomfortable moments and tough conversations, but I know the work is worth it, and that we will together make a positive impact on our communities, our patients, families, colleagues, peers, and families. So just to get us started a little bit, self-awareness doesn't stop us from making mistakes. I think one of the challenges that we face with diversity, equity, inclusion is that people are afraid to misstep or misspeak. And so instead of doing any of those things, they just refrain from engaging at all. And so self-awareness doesn't stop you from making mistakes. It allows you to learn from them. So we're just trying to learn and grow together. And I thought that would be a good place to start as I continue to engage us this morning. So I do have a short video that kind of just gives you a moment to pause and be reflective of where you are in your journey and maybe how others around you may be feeling. So quick video.
When you see me, what do you see? Beneath my hair, my skin, my accent.
Do you see just another Asian person?
Do you see the journey that it took to become the man that I am today?
Do you believe I'm only here because of affirmative action?
Do you see an angry Black woman? What do you see?
If you pause for a moment and push past the categories and stereotypes that society has taught us are important, instead you would see
a person with a disability, a person who is considered neuroatypical,
a 17-year-old who left home to go fight for her country,
I learned English in my adult life.
I'm a woman. I'm an advocate. I'm a professional.
That at only the age of 7, my family and I took a dangerous journey by sea to escape our home country of Cuba due to the political oppression and lack of opportunities that we faced.
Que sou brasileira, orgulhosa de ser latina, uma pessoa de idade trabalhando com tecnologia.
I have worked very hard to make the transition out of the military into the corporate world.
You would see that being a trans man is only one part of my identity. You would see the real me.
That like you, I have fears, judgments, and insecurities.
That like you, I want better for me, you, and us.
And like you, I am here to make a difference.
A construir un mundo conectado que nos ayude y nos permite a todos a prosperar igualmente.
When you see me, you will see that what makes us different is actually what connects us.
You will know that to support me and to stand with me, you will have to see me.
And our diversity is what makes us, us.
Stronger, united.
Siempre colaborando.
Always owning it.
Thinking big.
Seeing me is what makes us good humans.
So, thank you for giving me a few minutes just to show that video. And I think it's a great lead into thinking about why self-awareness is important in our diversity, equity, inclusion journey. It's really the first step to understanding what perspectives we lack, appreciating others' experiences and viewpoints, and building a diverse and inclusive team across our organization. And I think that video really was a moment for us to really reflect and think about the differences that kind of unite us and bring us together. And so this morning, I wanted to chat a little bit about how can you reflect and start with yourself, because we do believe it's a inside-outside job. And so just to give some context and define what self-awareness means, it's being aware and having the ability to recognize and understand your moods, your emotions and drives, and their effects on others. Some traits associated with self-awareness include self-confidence, having a realistic self-assessment on where you are in any particular journey in life. And then lastly, this theory of having sense of humor in a way that allows you to recognize that you don't, have it all together, that you have this moment of building upon the foundations of where you are. And so as we think about self-awareness and your role in diversity, equity, inclusion, we recognize that there's this opportunity to also be self-reflective and understand that we all have our own biases and for some privilege. And so we want to be mindful of that. And so I wanted to provide you all with just a few tips, practical applications that you can walk away with from this morning. And I don't want this to be a conversation that is very overwhelming. It's really just, how can we start our morning off today and be reflective and think about our impact and where we are. And so just some small tips to think about. One, be open to feedback and self-observation. There are going to be some who are going to have a different perspective and want to share and be reflective of where you are. Be open to small daily changes. Sometimes we try to bite off more than we can chew. And it's really about just those small, intentional, deliberate things that we do daily to help us with this journey, whether it's you like to journal or watch listen to a podcast or speak with friend groups, finding something that turns into what we would consider a reflective practice. And I would say often challenge your own assumptions and bias. We all have them. And, just being open to the fact that you have bias is a step in the right direction. Additionally, I really like this exercise on Johari's window. If you aren't familiar with this concept, it really gives you an opportunity to be reflective of yourself and what people know about you and what's unknown to others. And so as you think about what maybe something you can do on your own as soon as this week, I would encourage you to create this 4-box window. And as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, what is information that both you and others know about you and your commitment to this work or where you are in your journey? And then what is information that you don't know, but others may know about you, and how you figure that out could be things that other people have already shared with you that kind of is surprising that you don't see in yourself. Third, your hidden self, information about you that you know, but others don't. And then lastly, where's that blind spot, that window that you can look in, unknown self, information about you that neither you nor others know. So this is just a quick self-reflective exercise that you can practice and apply this week. And lastly, as you think about your journey and where you are, do you know your why for diversity, equity, inclusion, and what impact you want to make? We all have different levels of impact. Some of us are out in the forefront, others might want to play a more behind the scenes role. But the point is just figure out what's your own why statement. Are you comfortable talking about the issues? And that's where many of us need a little work and prompting, because as I mentioned early on in this conversation, if we don't feel comfortable with talking, we often won't get in the boat with others to get to that end destination. How much time do you spend learning about current and historical events? And then lastly, are you willing to hold others accountable for DE progress and impact? So that is really just a quick opportunity to be reflective this morning on self-awareness. It's really the first step in this journey. We want to give people small, bite-sized opportunities to partner with us in the work that we are doing that we know will make our organization a more inclusive and equitable place for our workforce and our patients and families to visit. And then as I just kind of wrap up this morning and open the floor for dialogue, some of the probing questions that I would love to hear from folks on the call this morning. Was there anything that resonated with you that I shared this morning? What can you apply from this conversation? And then maybe you have something you can add to the conversation, something that I maybe didn't touch upon. So I will stop there, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I see Renee. I see a hand raised. Renee, would you like to unmute and share some perspective?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for this talk this morning. So I am a MSW by training, but don't practice in that role with Gilchrist. But I had a conversation just the other day with one of my students who said something about cultural competency. So back when I graduated, so I'm probably like mid-career, that was a big thing, cultural competency. I challenge that. I don't operate under that kind of thought process. And I had a conversation with my student, and she totally disagreed with me, which is fine. Like, I'm that kind of mentor and preceptor. I think that's how we learn. I don't think you can be culturally competent. And I think that that's a dangerous approach to thinking that you know about a culture. You can learn about a culture. You can learn ideas and maybe patterns. But to say I'm culturally competent is like a huge miss. So you could look at me as a I like to still say middle-aged, kind of, you know, white woman, grew up in a certain area with a certain religious background and certain socioeconomic status, and look at the next person and think just because they look like me, that, or we're from the same area, we grew up in the same place, that we are alike and we have like thought processes and like beliefs, which is not true. So I was just challenging her to say, be cautious saying that you're culturally competent. You can be culturally aware, but I would encourage you to still ask questions and have conversations and be open, not make assumptions. So that would be my comment. So I think the things that you said here today are very aligned with that.
Thank you. That you know, that is a great reflective moment. And you know, Renee, for those, you know, I don't want to make any assumptions about anyone that's participating this morning. Can you just give us like in your own words, a broad definition of what cultural competence means?
So I'll be completely transparent. Many years ago in my career, so I'm 51, I would say like mid to late 20s, you know, I was asked to teach cultural competency, which is like crazy to me now to think back. Like, what did I even know? That's how I feel now, that I could teach that. But the sort of operating definition of cultural competency was that you would learn enough to understand all parts of a person's culture, which that could have included, like I said, geographic location, socioeconomic status, race, religion, origin of birth, you know, all those kind of things. How could I even possibly have thought at even today? I couldn't teach that. If someone came to me and said, could you teach this? I would be like, it's laughable to me. Nope, I can't. If you take one sector of something and you're maybe interested in exploring it with me, I can do that. But to say that you're culturally competent, if you're competent in anything, right, that means you have a good understanding of at least the general part of that, right? You may not dig down into the specifics, but I don't know. I just struggle with when I've heard people claim to be culturally competent, because I don't really know what that even is. And I would never, I just laugh at my younger self and think, what in the world made you think that you were qualified? Is anyone qualified to teach that? No, not in my opinion.
Well, thank you for sharing that opinion and that perspective. I see Debbie Bain has her hand raised, and Debbie, would you like to add to the conversation?
Yes, it sounds an awful lot like maybe, and correct me, Renee, if I'm wrong, that really you're going for cultural humility, which is actually what we teach in orientation now, is talking about, sure, you can maybe know trends or whatever, some pieces around, but even when I meet with white people who look just like me, there is no way to know where they stand on so many things. So it's about asking those questions and being open to different answers.
Totally agree.
Right. Okay. So it sounded sort of like that's where you're going, and I think that's kind of where things have been trying to trend, is more to that humility piece, because around any of this stuff, I mean, officially, I've been doing racial justice work for a fair number of years, but I'm still a white woman, and my experiences are still that of, at this point, a middle-aged white woman. And that means that I, will have to always have, as we all do, to really connect, a greater sense of humility around what does that even mean? Because coming across other middle-aged white women doesn't mean that we're going to see everything the same way. Of course, neither would anyone else. So thank you.
Thank you. I see, Chris, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that I taught world I created a class for homeschoolers for years and years and taught it for 20 years. And I called it cultural curiosity. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to pique people's interest and get them so excited about other cultures that they embraced it and they learned, and they went into every situation with a lot of questions like, teach me and show me. And that was something that was very helpful with working with children, was to diminish the fear and excite them in their curiosity and their interest in other people's way of doing things.
Thank you for sharing it. I think this is such a great conversation because, you know, especially in healthcare, we love to use the term cultural competence. And, you know, I think that it can be misleading because it makes us think that we have to know about all the details of someone's culture, and that can feel overwhelming to many and almost like a goal that you're shooting for that you'll never accomplish. And so for me, and maybe it's because I am a little naive, and I look at cultural competence as not that I need to know the detail of every different person and every different human that walks the earth, but it's more about I have the confidence and the ability to recognize that people show up differently based on their experiences, their culture, and so forth. And so it's more so of me recognizing that that happens and that I do need to be curious and ask questions and not make assumptions on how people want to be treated, how they would want to receive care. And if I want to be more knowledgeable, yes, I do take the time and maybe learn about cultures, but I don't lead with that. I'm leading with the thought that I need to get to know people and I need to ask people how they want to be treated and the care that they want to receive, recognizing that my culture and my bias shouldn't lead with what everybody else wants. So I guess in my journey, that's kind of what I've always thought to be culturally competent. And it's more so this collective attitude, skills, and belief versus leading with that. I want everyone on this to know something about every culture and lead that. So Michael,
I think that's true, but the problem is in healthcare, I agree with you 100%. The problem is the language in healthcare is when you talk in healthcare, you know, competencies is a widespread word. And in the healthcare community or the medical community, competency means like an end all, I know all, I understand all, I practice this, I can model it, and I can teach it. So that's why I struggle with the language. And it might be like we're drilling down into nothing, but for me personally, that's why I'm so cautious about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally, you're right. We like, you know, competence means that we are super skilled in something and that we can demonstrate that. And I appreciate that, this dialogue. Michael, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I love that you brought this up, Renee, because that back when I started in nursing, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, I feel like you're teaching me stereotypes and calling it competence. And there's a fine line. And I really like that things have moved towards cultural humility, because I think I think they just kind of missed the mark with the language is the problem. We need the competency in my thought of what questions do I need to ask. So in my experience in hospice, I'm in Pikesville. So if I know they're Orthodox Jewish, I am not going to assume all these things, but I know to ask, you know, where can I set things? And I just avoid the kitchen because I don't want to mess up any of the kosher things. You know, I'm a little more cautious. And if it's a female patient, I'm going to be a little more cautious of the touch unless it's absolutely physically necessary for the type of exam. So not putting my hand on their arm to comfort them without asking, where in other populations, I ask, but there's a different kind of threshold for that. So I think I agree. The language is kind of a problem, but to me, it always reflects back to me of what questions do I need to ask going into this household? I may be completely off. I try to make sure I'm not asking stereotypical questions that could be offensive, but knowing, you know, hey, I know you guys are Orthodox Jewish and I am not, so feel free to correct me, but I just want to clarify, you know, who are the decision makers in the family here? How much physical touch are you okay with? You know, what am I going to do on Saturday? Do I need to walk into the house and you're going to leave the door unlocked if it's an on-call visit? Kind of know what things to ask, but to me, it's always an asking and never an assuming, which I feel like the early days of cultural competency was like, this is what you need to do for these people. And even that language is just like, nah, what is that? So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Renee.
And I do agree that there's an evolution of this thought about cultural competence, and you will see the people are changing some of the language and the terms that we use. And so I think that what's really more important is this conversation that we're having, and that the mindset that people hold. And it sounds like many of you, regardless of if we've missed the mark with what we refer to as cultural competence, many people are doing the reflective work of how do I connect with people in a meaningful way that allows them to feel valued and respected, and that the things that resonate with them are shown in my treatment. And so, and I think that you also bring up a good point in terms of just, you know, not putting people in buckets and stereotypes and judgments is what we want to be cautious of in all of this work, whether we call it cultural competence or anything else. So thank you all so much for that dialogue. I know we are really close to the 9 o'clock hour. So I don't know, Chris, do I have time for maybe one more comment, or how do we close out? I want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Just it's about a minute or two. If you could just close up, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. So, you know, I just encourage all of us as we start this new week to pause and just maybe figure out where you are in your journey with regards to diversity, equity, inclusion. And some might be in the beginning stage. Many of you might be well on your way. And then there are some who are really entrenched in this work. I will say, regardless of where you are, it's not there's no end to this. And we all have an opportunity to just continue to get better, whether it's encouraging others to get in this journey with us, or, you know, if you're just getting started. The point is just reflect, and this is your journey. It's personal for many of us. And I'm just happy that we can be here and learn from one another. Thank you all so much. Happy Monday to you all. Thank you for having me. I love being a part of this Monday morning inspirational talk, and I look forward to seeing you all the next time.
Thank you so much.